When the state pays for a project with state tax dollars, they're required to pay more than anyone else. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers on location at the state capitol. Joining me now is Senator Arlan Meekhof, a Republican from the 30th District. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Laura.
So is this really true that if there's a construction project, for example, public colleges building the new school of nursing or whatnot, and the state is paying to build that building with construction workers and paying the bill, they're paying more than perhaps the local hospital down the road if they were building such a building?
That is true. When the state taxpayer dollars are involved and a construction project goes out for bid, it's required to garner the bids that include prevailing wage, which is the wage that is set by mostly union shops that say this is what it should cost to build this building in terms of labor.
Would it be the same as saying you must use union labor?
Very nearly the same, I would say. In practice, that's really what happens. So your point about a hospital or a different construction project may not have to pay that if they're using private money or some other their private financing. They do not have to include prevailing wage in their bid.
So what is the idea behind prevailing wage, and why, in your opinion, is it perhaps not such a great idea?
I give you an example from my local district. Allendale schools were to build 2 new schools, and they asked their citizens if they could borrow $60 million to build these 2 new schools. In that $60 million project, they anticipated that prevailing wage would cost them $6 million more, or about 10% more than if they could just finance it privately or not have to use state money to finance this project. So you take $6 million and finance it, the difference, obviously $6 million, finance it over 30 years like a mortgage. The taxpayers of Allendale are paying about just under $13 million more for that school, those 2 schools, over a 30-year mortgage than they would have had to if they were just bidding the project with normal wages.
So you are actively attempting or trying or suggesting that this law should be repealed?
Yeah, as a House member I introduced it, and as a Senate member I have as well. I've introduced this bill, and I believe it's just good government. It's costing all of our taxpayers more money. Taxpayers shouldn't have to pay more just because it's taxpayer dollars.
I can't imagine the Democrats are on board. You don't have bipartisan support, do you?
No, I do not have bipartisan support. But again, it's just good government. I mean, if it's costing local governments more, we use schools as an example, it would apply to sewer projects, it would apply to a number of things like that where state taxpayer dollars are involved.
We have a sitting Republican governor. What is his view on repealing this prevailing wage?
At this point, he said it's not on his agenda, but he said that about other things, so I'm hoping I can convince him otherwise.
And in the future, then, hopefully, if we didn't have to pay this, I'm assuming the argument is that if you pay a prevailing wage, the dollars end up going back into the communities and the communities prosper that way. Could there be some ramifications if it is repealed with less tax dollar money flowing through, if you will? Yeah.
Well, what I think we would be able to say is those local communities would be able to retain more of their own funds. In the example of Allendale, they wouldn't have to spend that money. So a dollar saved is a dollar earned, or a penny saved is a penny earned, as Benjamin Franklin would say. So it's money you don't have to spend. So it's an avoidance of cost. And we believe there's somewhere between $200 and $250 million a year that the taxpayers of Michigan could save.
All right, and just on those construction projects alone?
Just on those types of projects, correct.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Senator Arlan Meekhof, a Republican from the 30th District.